Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And today we're going to be learning how best to properly build the new Protectors of Peace team, led by Masayuki with his very confusing mechanic, Geld with his additional skill points and weakness resistance down and all that, and then Rimuru as the AoE Big Daddy damage nuker. Now, a side note is that Masayuki, because his mechanic is so very complicated and is very much incomplete, we are waiting on, at minimum, one more summonable unit for this meta before he becomes actually a very reliable and viable protector. Right now, he's just kind of okay. I think his ceiling will be high, and I think he can be very, very good, but it's going to require a lot. So we're not going to have, those characters in mind here. We're going to take him as what he exists as right now with just Rimuru and Geld, and then 3 other slots that we can use to support, essentially, Rimuru. So I'm going to format this video in a different way than I've done the last ones. I'm going to break it up into dedicated sections, just trying to make this video a bit better for people. So please, if you found this format more helpful, let me know in the comments, and if not, also let me know. I'm always looking to try and improve these to make them more friendly to the larger player base and more or less confusing. So again, yeah, give me your feedback. Alright, so first off, we're going to be starting with orb changing and orb support for this team. This is a green orb focused team. Rimuru has a single orb change. Geld has a double orb change that's only for Protectors of Peace characters. So if these are the only 2 Protectors of Peace Force characters you're using, he's only going to change Rimuru and Geld orbs. And then his other skill does give green orbs a stacking 50 to 100 to 500% skill point gain. And that is very, very impactful. Let's take a look at it really, really fast before we really jump in. The new Geld. So right here, increases Souls of Skills skill point increased until the end of battle by 50 up to 500. This means that every time you use that skill, your green orbs will give you more and more skill points back. And since Masayuki is raising your skill cap every turn, you're going to be making 150, 250, 300 points on, sending 6 green orbs. So that's very good. What this team does not have currently is someone to buff the gauge increase of Masayuki. Geld is only doing skill points, not Protector gauge and not alt gauge. So your first 2 options are going to be 2 free-to-play characters. Either the Exalted Champion Veldora, he can change his own orbs, or if you bring another Exalted Champions unit, you can change theirs. But more importantly, he has that 2-turn 70% all green gauge buff, which will give us more Masayuki, more alt gauge for Rimuru, and it will stack alongside the extra skill points that Geld is already going to give us. So that's very good. Another substitution for Veldora, if you don't have him, is an even more affordable character, and that's Isis. She is changing blues to greens, and she has a 3-turn 50% all gauge increase, which again will help you get more Masayuki, more alt, and more skill points. Not as much as Veldora, but it lasts for 3 turns versus Veldora's 2 turns. So Veldora and Isis are going to be really, really good free-to-play orb-changing options. They both can orb change. Isis is more generic. Veldora is restricted to his own orbs. But they're both solid options. Other orb changers you can bring will be either free-to-play Eren or the free-to-play Space Sufia. Both of them change orange orbs to green. So if you have Geld, you have Rimuru, you have maybe Isis and one of these 2 characters, you have pretty much an entire field of orbs that you can convert at any given moment. But I would not bring both of them. I would bring, ideally, probably Sufia, because Eren is Earth, the beatdown battle is Fire, she has type disadvantage. It doesn't hit you very hard, but you don't want to really put yourself into that much danger to begin with. Other options for orb changing are going to be free-to-play Trya. If you have access to her, she'll be very, very good. She doesn't give us any gauge increase, but just her double skill points of orb changing means that you pretty much have any event covered, as long as you can make use of maybe a protection charm on Masayuki. She's going to be extremely valuable for players that do have her. Other orb changers, free to, or not free to play, but Water Soe will be good. He changes oranges to greens. He's got, if his skill fusion is active, he's got defense up and attack down. The beatdown battle really doesn't hit that hard, so these are much less necessary skills. So if you don't have them skill fused, it's not a big deal. Wind Lumi also would be a good shot because she's got a special convert and she has a heal. Again, not super necessary, but she can definitely orb change. But the main thing that I'm trying to focus on for you guys is green orb changers. Space Rongo works. Technically, Groom Rimuru and Bride Xian, they technically work. Space Velzard works. Water Alice works. Water Alice is on the Protectors of Peace category as well, so that can work out. Dark Milim, I mean, you can bring her, but she's got a 70% alt buff, and that conflicts with Rimuru's 150, so that skill does not really matter for the rest of the team, or for at least Rimuru, who's doing the damage, so maybe not the best pick. And, yeah, Try is good. Tsubasa can orb change technically. She's got that going for her. Nabe can technically convert her own orbs and blues, so she also works. As far as EX character orb changes are concerned, you can bring Mirin, or not Mirin, but you can bring Sokka, or you could bring Mirai if you have her, and they have the future hand of green orbs. So if you use them over and over again, it eliminates all of your orb RNG, and you always have green orbs incoming, which is going to be really, really powerful, and again, makes your life so easy, because you know that the next hand are going to be all green orbs. But Mirai's collab, Sokka is not the best character in the game, very far from it, so kind of unfortunate there. Other green orb changers for this team, for EX, I mean, Adventurer Shizu is on the team. She has a single orb change. That can work, but you're really looking just for green orb changing support units. Next up are the alt swapping characters. This is a stacking team, and you're going to get a lot of alt gauge by turn 8 for Rimuru. And ideally, you would like to have one character to help you resolve that I have 5 orbs and an alt, but I want to send 6. Who can I use for that? Well, there's not a whole lot of options, unfortunately. As far as dedicated green alt swappers are concerned, there's 3 of them. There is Overlord Shizu, who's going to be the best if you have her. If you don't have her, the next best will be Idol Shuna. She's changing 2 alts to greens. Her magic, or her synergy buff is full power is locked to magic allies, which Rimuru is physical. So that skill not going to be highly useful. And then after that, we have the Light Masked Hero, who is on the Protectors of Peace team, but she only changes 1 alt to green. Now Masayuki will allow you to use that multiple times in a turn, so you can technically alt swap 3 in 1 turn with her. It's just going to get pretty expensive. But these are your only 3 dedicated green alt swapping characters. We have not had a lot of green stacking metas, therefore we have not needed a lot of green alt swappers. There are plenty of blue alt swappers. Evil Rimuru. Who else we got? We have Shinsha. Yeah, Water Shinsha is oranges technically. We've got Blanc, who changes 3 alts to blues, which I guess if you want to do that and then bring orb changers, you can kind of work around it. We have Exalted Champion Rimuru, who changes them to rainbows, and he's got an attack buff, so I mean that does help the new Rimuru, certainly by a large amount, but you can only use his alt swap 1 time. And then the new Fire Shuna, Ogre's Pride, she has a triple alt swap, again, to blue orbs. So your options for dedicated greens are very, very limited. I expect that one of the future characters that are coming out this meta will have at least a double alt swap to green, if not a triple, and they should be very, very impactful. And finally, we're going to go into the damage supports for this Rimuru. So we've covered orb changing, we've covered alt swapping. Now it's time to buff Rimuru and do big daddy damage. It's very simple to do this, actually, especially because the beatdown battle by the nuke turn on turn 8 is unrestricted. It allows you to use crit, it allows you to use Pierce, it allows you to use Synergy. So you could do any of those buffs on this beatdown battle, and they will work, which opens up a whole realm of support opportunities. You could bring Momiji, guaranteed Pierce, guaranteed Synergy, Synergy down. That works. You could bring, well, Mizi doesn't really work that well. Let's see. You could bring Exalted Champion Rimuru. We talked about him earlier for the attack buff. That's certainly an option. You could bring New Year's Shinsha. Her ult buff doesn't really matter because Rimuru has his own, but she's got 40% crit damage. Speaking of crit damage, you can go all the way down here to Carrion, who's got 20% crit damage, and Rimuru's giving himself guaranteed crits. That is also an option for you. If you have access, you could bring Tempest Leap Benimaru or Fount of Wisdom Rimuru. They're both giving physical buffs to Rimuru. One is doing AoE Fizz resistance down. Benimaru is doing single target ult resistance down, which the beatdown is an AoE fight, so Rimuru is going to be better. They both have blue orb changes, which don't matter for this team. But also, you could bring Space Lumi, because what Space Lumi is doing is on turn 8, she gives 50% physical and then 40% crit resistance down. I'm going to have to check that. It might be flipped around. 50% physical attack to Autogram Demon Lord, which the new Rimuru is on, and then 40% crit resistance down. So she's doing two things right there on turn 8, which is going to be really, really strong for this Rimuru, because again, he's giving himself guaranteed crits, and crit resistance down will help with that. The Masked Hero, Space Masked Hero, was added to the Force as well, so she could also be a very strong contender, especially if you can skill fuse her. You can get up to 60% crit resistance down. Very, very strong. Next up, we have, let's see, who else can we bring? I mean, Weakness Strike. Anyone who's doing Weakness Strike, so Shizu, Primal Demon Jean, technically, anyone. Overlord Shizu is doing double duty if you have her, ult swapping and Weakness Strike and ult resistance down, so technically triple duty. Aqua, where's Aqua? Pierce Power and guaranteed Pierce for Rimuru, that'll work. You can use any main style of buff as long as it will apply to Rimuru. So Violet's magic buff does not matter. Rimuru's not magic there. But element buff from Hinata, or even Water Shion, wherever she is, right here, that will work for this Rimuru. It'll work. And if you skill fuse her, she's got a little bit of crit resistance down as well. That's cool. That helps him out, certainly. But there are a number of options. The only things you don't want to do when adding to these 3 support slots is try and bring a unit that's giving ult damage, because Rimuru already does that for himself, 150%. Editing Joker here. When speaking about the extra ult damage, you don't want temporary ult buffs. Dark Milim, Water Shuna, these kinds of characters. One character that you can bring is Octogram Lumi. She's got permanent ult damage, up to 80% if she's skill fused. And she's got that AoE 30% buff, which definitely helps out this AoE Rimuru. So if you combine Lumi and Rimuru, that's 150 plus 80, so that's 230% ult damage and 30% AoE damage. Lumi is a top tier option for this Rimuru, but I just wanted to add that in because I totally forgot to talk about her. So we don't need extra ult damage unless it's like an EX ult from, say, Commander Shizu or something like that. But a lot of her kit is wasted on this team because Rimuru is not on Commander or on whatever category that she's giving it to, the physical buff. He's not getting it. So we'd only get the 70% EX ult damage, and her orb change does not matter on this team. So she's usable. Certainly not the best option, though. But there are a lot of characters that you can use to support, which is very nice. It really helps people build a team that can clear out EX2, EX, or maybe Inferno 1s, if you just have a team full of good supports. So what I would do is I would probably bring, like, Isis or Veldora, and then I would personally bring Fount of Wisdom Rimuru, or I would bring Space Lumi. and then I would bring Overlord Shizu, and that would be pretty much my best team. I could swap Isis out for Veldora or Traya, that would be totally fine. But this team should clear probably up to Inferno 2. I haven't tested Inferno 3 yet. But hopefully this gives you an idea of how to properly build for the Protectors of Peace team. If you, again, like this new format where I've split it out, please let me know. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.